Hello there, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I'm your host, Rich Owens, and it's lovely to have you back again. You look great today, and you smell terrific. Of course, I am not alone. I am joined once again by, let's be honest, the Brian Fantana and the champ kind to my Ron Burgundy. It's the FM team. It's Kev. It's Jeb. Kev, how are we this morning, friend?
Trying to get that reference. I mean, obviously, I'm just not down with the kids. No, I do totally understand it. I wonder how many of our viewers and listeners did or didn't get it. Let us know somewhere in the comments. I'm very intrigued on that one. I'm doing all right. I have the very slightest sore throat today. So if I go all gravelly and deep in this particular podcast, then, that will be a thrill for everyone, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, I'm doing good. My wife has got over COVID. She's had that for the last couple of weeks. I might have just picked up the sore throat that she's still got at the end of it, or who knows. But other than that, I'm here. I'm happy. Let's do a podcast.
Let's absolutely do. We were saying before we went live, wouldn't it be ironic if Kev had spent the last fortnight successfully dodging COVID just to pick up some kind of random throaty ailment? But, also, I think there's a very, very big market for slightly gravelly United City FM ASMR. So again, this could break down new boundaries, and
we might find that out over the next couple of days on stream. Who knows?
Exactly. I think if our demographic just dramatically changes to a lot of excited stereotypical ladies from the early 1920s just fanning themselves like, oh, Lord have mercy.
I'm so thrilled. You think that's the type of audience I can attract? Thanks.
Hey, we're always open to new demographics here at FMT, so everybody is welcome. And if whoever Gravelly Kev attracts, then so be it. Lovely to have you here. And also, we have the potentially less gravelly but equally wonderful Jeb WHAMMYS. How's it going this morning, pal?
I'm usually called gravelly anyway, just because of the northern dulcet tones that I have. Firstly, whammy. There you go. See, I got the reference. It took me a while to think of it, but I had plenty of time to think of what it was. So there we are. But yeah, whammy indeed. Yeah, I'm okay. It's a reasonable Saturday. It's been a reasonable week. I mean, we had an exciting week with drafting and things like that. I think it's crazy transfer season, which is always interesting in the football side of things, and then it kind of always spills over into Football Manager, where you start looking up like who is this player that this team have just signed? Where have they cut? Why are these players spending this much money on them, and why? And usually Football Manager is a great point of reference for that. I still can't find out what 45 million Nancy Gordon equals, but there we are.
Yeah. What is an Anthony Gordon, and why is it worth so much money? I think is going to be the number one. The two most popular questions trending on Google this morning. It's weird, isn't it? It's you are right. It's that time of year where people start thinking, okay, well, soon, January updates coming out and updates to databases on FM. Who would be fun after the January transfer window? I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Chelsea content over the next few months. And I think a lot of those saves are going to finish after one season when the financial fair play regulation reports come in and people go, oh, this is irregular. I'm going to do something else now. Goodbye. Because
with Chelsea, it's like, even I think FM came out of it and said, even on FM, you cannot do the deals structured the way Chelsea have done them over 7-8 years. I mean, Obviously that's going to be in the next update or next season, but yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So there are all those type of deals where you go, yeah, we'll win the Champions League in the next 2 seasons, and we'll give you 100 million if it happens. We're in the Championship and we're 23rd, but yeah, we're going to win the Champions League in the next 2 seasons. We'll give you 100 million. It's almost those cheat codes that they're putting out there, and I guess the Chelsea rebuilds is like, I fit 24 wingers into 1 11. It's that time. That's basically where Chelsea have gone with it. It's I enjoy this type of season. I think transfer deadline day is coming up, and I think this might be a reasonably exciting one in terms of people moving around and stuff. People forced away. It's not going to happen with Liverpool. Liverpool made their one signing, and we're sticking to it, and that's how it's going to go. Hopefully, big rebuild in the summer. But yeah, like I said, I enjoy this time of year.
Yeah, it's really, really fun to sit back and watch as, it's being a supporter of a club that aren't anywhere near the Premier League. It's kind of fun to just be able to sit that and watch that passively without any kind of pressure on, panicking about your club's performances and who they're going to be bringing in. I mean, Kev, are you happy with United's business so far? Obviously, they've brought in Big Wout Weghorst, who,
Well, I mean, we also bought in Jack Butland, remember, as well. So, I mean, what more can we want, really?
How have you forgot that, Rich? Unbelievable.
And, Wout Weghorst. I mean, it's, two signings at the beginning of the season that we would have been very excited over, I'm sure. Actually, if I'm totally honest, I am actually pretty happy with Weghorst coming into the club for one particular reason, and that is because there is this misconception out there that all this guy is a big lumbering bloke that you put the ball on the top of his head and he puts it in the back of the net for you, and that's not really strictly true. I think he's actually very gifted in technical football, and I think his job, and I think he'll do it well, is to actually make stars out of the 3 or 4 people around him. And I think that's what United have been missing, a central point that people like Rashford and Fernandes and Anthony or Sancho, when he comes back in, can work around. And I think he'll do great at that for the second half of our season. Whether we stick with him long term, I don't know. But for now, actually, it's not that bad.
Absolutely. I think he's great. Sound the football cliche klaxon, but he has got great feet for a big man. So I'm looking forward to it. I rate him. I think he's wonderful. I think when he was playing back in Germany, when he was at Wolfsburg, I think he was fantastic. The Burnley move came a little bit out of the blue, but it is what it is. But again, that's one of those beautifully random football transfers that seems to be happening. You've got players, who have the potential to go down in the history books at clubs like Roma, who are apparently in transfer talks with clubs like Bournemouth, which fantastic. I love it. I love it deeply and with a huge passion. I want to see.
It's also like Red Bull Salzburg are just playing FM. Like their last 3, so they had Haaland, and then who are we going to get after Haaland? We'll get Sesko, and now I can't for the life of me remember the name. Is it the Israeli striker they've just signed, or I can't remember what his name is now, but they've just signed him as well. So he's the next wonder kid coming off the line because Sesko's moving to the next Red Bull team alone.
I remember, I know who you mean, and I can't. For the life
and I've completely forgot his name. I was just trying to look it up.
Garuk,
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Like that,
and everyone's been going crazy about him in FM23, and Salzburg have signed him. It's almost Red Bull Salzburg going, right, who's really popular in FM this year that nobody knows? Right, that's fine. Let's go for him. I mean.
That's brilliant. Yeah. It's brilliant. All we're missing now is somebody just going the full Peter Odemwingie on transfer deadline day, driving to a stadium and just knocking on the door. Please let me in. Please sign me. I don't want to go back to West Bromwich Albion. Please and thank you.
I think Dan Juma did that, but he did the reverse. So he went to Everton, went, oh yeah, I'll come and sign for you. Yeah, cool. I'm just going to pop back to London. Oh, hi. Is that you, Antonio Conte? Yeah. I'll come to you instead. This sounds such a better offer.
Exactly. It's like Robinho. There was the rumor when Robinho went to Man City that he was told he was going to go and play for a popular club in England that played in blue, and he just assumed it was Chelsea. I love it. I absolutely love it. More of that kind of thing. I think
the Dan Juma thing I did share with you was the Everton fans. Oh, welcome! You're going to be amazing for the club. And then his next tweet is, insert bleep off, mate, because it just
exactly. Those kind of interactions are just wonderful. Yeah. There's a fella, Carl. He's one of the producers on the very, very good Have a Word podcast. He's a big Everton fan, and I think earlier in the week he just tweeted like, Dan Juma, lad, it's just not worth it. Don't bother. And then 2 days later he just like quote tweeted it, just went, oh, so that was that. It's so good. It's so good. But again, it's that tribalism, isn't it? It's the way that somebody there's the player linked to your club automatically behind them. In the case of this tweet with the Everton supporters club, and then just two minutes later, they've gone from club hero without having ever signed to just dead to them. So as I say, it's such an exciting time. You're both right. There's plenty of deals to be done. It's going to be an exciting one this season, and as I say, I think it's going to influence a lot of people's decisions content wise over the next few months as well. So obviously we'll be catching back. I think after next week's record, we'll have a bit of a clearer picture of what's gone on. So we might have a little transfer window roundup and maybe, you know, have a look at some teams that might be interesting to take on a short or long-term challenge with afterwards. There's an idea. What a good one. Look at me, thinking on my feet. What a pro.
Make a note of it.
Make a note of it. Remember this. Remember this now. Because if not, somebody, and that somebody is me, will forget. However, I mean, let's, you know, looking to the future is always very, very exciting, but looking at what we're doing in the here and the now, we take it in turns each week to have a little roundup of what we've been doing in our stream saves, in our little projects that we've all got going on. It's Kev's turn today, and Kev played an absolute blinder yesterday. Because how's the Ukraine going for you at the moment, Kev?
Oh, I think I aged about 20 years this week on the streams, but it's all good. So it's actually surprisingly gone pretty well this week. I will take it. So I'm on my homeward bound challenge, trying to get back to England, starting in Ukraine. And I had to win the Ukrainian league to get out of it to move forward towards England. Of course, if I don't win it in 3 seasons, then I can't move forward towards England. I have to move sideways. That was the gist of my the challenge. In season number 4, so there you go. Immediately we know we're moving sideways and not forwards, whatever happens. I again went up against Shakhtar Donetsk in Ukraine as my Dynamo Kiev side. They had beaten me to the title for the last couple of seasons, and quite successfully so, it must be said. And then very early on in the transfer window in the summer before season number 4, they sold one of their key players, Manor Solomon, I believe his name was. It was one of their wingers, Mudryk on one side, Solomon on the other, and they sold him for £71 million. And that shows you the discrepancy between them and the rest of the Ukrainian league as well, for goodness sake. So I was always a little bit hopeful that if they started having to sell off their big players to some clubs that came sniffing in for them, then maybe that would help me. So I went into the season pretty happy. I won the Super Cup against them, the season opener, the friendly, on penalties, which was good. So that gave me an early advantage. And then we played them in the league fairly early on, and they showed that they weren't actually that bothered about the Super League, but they were quite bothered about the league itself. And they beat us early in the season. So we're already on the back foot. But then things changed. A couple of games afterwards, they started dropping a couple of points here and there, and I was becoming more consistent. And for a lot of the season, we were several games behind everybody else in the league because we were going through European qualifiers at the beginning of the season. That slowed our original first section down. So we were like 3 or 4 games behind everyone else, but fairly similar to Shakhtar because they went through the same thing. So we were sitting in like 2nd, 3rd, 4th position for most of the season, with Vorskla topping it because they played 4 games more. But we were on par with Shakhtar mostly. And then we went a little bit ahead of them. And with half a dozen games to go, leading into yesterday's stream, the situation was that we were basically 6 points clear of them with like 5 games to go in the league. We then played them in the cup final, the Ukrainian cup final, and they absolutely battered me. 4-0. Couldn't get anywhere near them in any way. And I thought, this is going to be the turn. This is where they're going to swing their form and they're going to charge towards the line. And my players are going to go, yeah, maybe. But we'll see. And they had already, Shakhtar, this is, beaten me in the Europa League quarterfinals as well to knock me out of that one. So they took the Europa League away from me. They took the Ukrainian Cup away from me. 5 games to go, 6 points clear. And we had to play them in the league as well. So we did. And they absolutely battered me. They're just so blooming hard. 1-on-1. I do not know how you're supposed to beat them unless you can find a way to take it to penalties, basically. So they took points off me, and we were very, very close. And then, again, I and they both dropped more points. I played Vorskla, who were sitting top of the table most of the season. We're now down in 3rd because we'd both overtaken them. And they got a draw against me, I think it was. In the end, with a couple of matches to go, I was 4 points clear with 2 games to play. And in the penultimate game, somehow Shakhtar lost and I won the blooming Ukrainian title, and I was ecstatic about it. That's exactly right. That's what I was doing. 4 seasons in, it took me. I mean, the first season, was me being sacked at Zorya Luhansk halfway through the season, basically. So that doesn't really count so much. But the last couple of seasons with Dynamo have been very, very tricky to get them properly close to Shakhtar, and we just about did it. And we did it with no star striker because Yaremchuk was out injured for 3 months towards the end of the season. No left winger because both of them were out injured for about a month at the back end of the season. And no left fullback because he was out for 3 months at the end of the season. The game hates me, and we still won the blooming Ukrainian league. So we are heading out of Ukraine. I did not resign my position. I will be doing that first thing on Monday afternoon stream. And then we will be moving to Romania, because that's where we now have to go to. It should have been Poland if we were able to take that straight line back to England as the shortest route I wanted. It now has to be Romania because it was 4 seasons and not 3. And we'll have to see what jobs are available. Can't put myself in anywhere, have to apply for the jobs. So the question will be, do I take a chance and wait a season, because it will count towards my 3 seasons in Romania before I take a job at a big club if they show up with one? Or do I go in with a club and see what we can do in 3 seasons? That's the dilemma next. You'll have to join me this week to find out, because I genuinely don't know. But we won the blooming Ukrainian league. Finally.
Fantastic.
Top 10 all-time streaming moment for me. We were both there. We were both in the chat. I think I managed to jump in just before that penultimate game of the season, and I came in and I saw a slightly panicky Kev with no star striker, no left wingers,
Injuries,
no left-sided
yeah, wow.
fullbacks, injuries everywhere. I'm just in the chat. I'm like, focus play down the right. Just do that. That's all he needs to do. He'll be fine.
Here is the thing to demonstrate that I genuinely had completely lost my mind and did not know what was going on. The chat had to spend 3 minutes telling me why Shakhtar could still win it even if I won my penultimate game, because I hadn't put into consideration that they could win their penultimate game too and get through to the last game of the season still having a chance to win it. And I could not figure this out. I was sitting on stream, my mind had gone, thinking, but I'm going to win it. If I win this game, I win it. And they're all going, no, you won't. You just won't. That's not how it works. I'm going, no, it is. For goodness sake, my mind had gone completely.
I think here at FMT, we all chose looks, not books, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. It was such a wonderful moment. The best thing about it as well as Kev convincingly winning that penultimate game, we were all sat there and we were watching the scores coming in the other fixtures, and very, very similarly to the end of season 3, I think it was, Kev, Shakhtar were 3-0 down in their game in their first half.
So putting that in context, at the back end of season 3, you're right. They were 4-0 down. I think it was to Dnipro in the final game of the season. And I needed to win my game. And if I did, I would have won the league. And they were 4-0 down. And they came back to get a 4-4 draw. And I failed to win my game. And they won the league. And this time they were 3-0 down at like half time in their game. And I was already up in mine at that point. So it was a slightly different feel. And then they came back to 3-2. And I thought, they're going to take it to the last day. And I play the bottom side in the division on the last day. And I'm notoriously awful about getting results against the bottom team when it really, really matters. So ultimately, I thought, here we go. With the swing is still on. But they didn't quite manage it. And they lost their penultimate match. And I won mine. And we won the Ukrainian blooming league.
I'm very, very, very happy. Very, very happy for you, Kev. I, for one, am very excited to find out what you do in Romania this week. I think they're going to be clamoring for you. And if they're not, they're fools. Absolute fools. Or worst case scenario, you just use the Ukrainian formula, take a job at a lower ranked team, and then 6 months later get offered a job at one of the biggest clubs. So again, you've got options. You've got options all round. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Start you Monday. You'll be starting this. So
Yes.
the day this if you're listening to this podcast on Patreon this afternoon, if you're listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, then yesterday.
The plan is to do a job hunt search on Monday, and if we don't find one, I might do some work towards that behind the scenes, and hopefully by Tuesday/Wednesday, we're in some form of role somewhere and moving forward again into Romania. That's the plan for this coming week.
Wonderful. Well, I, for one, am very much looking forward to it, and you all should be too. Of course you are. Of course you're looking forward to it. It's Kev, and he makes wonderful, wonderful things. Lovely. Well, say congratulations, mate. The Ukrainian League, it's home finally, and you're one step closer, and you're going to fly through it. I'm very, very excited. Lovely, fantastic, happy days. Ukraine done and dusted for Kev. Beautiful. We're all very, very happy. Now the three of us, because as well as our kind of our streaming and our offline business, all three of us have been pretty busy over the last couple of weeks. We've all been dipping our toes into a bit of PvP for a variety of different competitions, for a variety of different people. Both Kev and I have been competing in Football Manager Top Manager, which has been really, really good fun. And also Jeb and Kev competed in the FM Winter Cup, which is, again, another wonderful competition with varying degrees of success across the board, might I add. I think, it's, if anything, it just keeps the data interesting on the graph. Jeb, you Winter Cupped. How did you find your Winter Cup experience this year?
So the draft was it wasn't actually that hard for me. I know Kev will go into how hard it was for him because he actually did some prep. I didn't do any prep for the draft. So initially the draft was Whirlpool, unlimited budget. Everyone was like, yep, nice, done, easy. Everyone going down, Haaland, Goretzkas, all your big names, Dimitri Payet, all those big names, all the people out there that you all care about. And I was like, okay, fair enough, I might do some prep on that. But then half an hour, or it would end up being an hour before, they went, it's still unlimited budget, but you can only sign players between 10 and 25 million. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm just going to load up my Road to Legends list because it's pretty much around those numbers anyway. So my first pick, I wanted Darwin Núñez more than anything else because the strikers in the pool weren't the best, and Darwin Núñez has been really good in PvP, and he will come good in real life. This is a Jeb guarantee now, right? But yeah, I didn't get him, so I picked up Polina, and I just started to pick off all the players that did really well for me, Road to Legends. So I got DePaul, I got Polina, I got Martinez, I got Mazrui and Angelino as my fullbacks. That worked quite nicely, and I started to go through, and then I really wanted to get Ivan Toney, who was available, and somebody picked in the pick before me. So my front line was a bit of a problem. I had Patrick Bamford, Patson Daka, and then I picked up, I'm going to attempt to say his name again, Sasa Kalisic, the one who got injured. I think I got it right, actually, for the first time ever. The 6'7" big boy from Wolves who got injured at the start of the season, so he hasn't really played. Picked him up as well, and we got into the group. We played Malteser Falcon, Muzza, and Tenacious G in the group. First game went 1-0 down straight away, so here we go again. We pulled it back, and then we got a penalty. Rodrigo de Paul missed that penalty, so it went to 2-1 to Muzza, and then second half we changed it up a little bit. We went 4-4-2, 4-2-4 should I say, and brought on the aforementioned big boy. He got a goal, and then Daka got a last minute winner, so that was a nice little start for us. Then played Tenacious G. He went 2-0 up quite quickly. I was like, oh god, here we go again, and we pulled it back. Daka, Corona, and various others played really well for me. Corona in particular in this one, he was definitely my standout player. He got 5 assists across the board. He just came in on the left wing, but I could play him on the right wing. He could literally just play across there. He could even play left back if I needed him to, if I was desperate. But it worked quite nicely the way he came in. He just kept cutting in, playing that ball in. Obviously, the absence of Hakimi or just that pacey way, he just did everything that I wanted on that side of the pitch. DePaul missed another penalty later in the groups, but we ended up beating Tenacious G 5-2. We just kind of took him apart in the second half, and it worked out beautifully for us. Then we came up against Malteser Falcon. I lost Lewis Dunk for that because he got suspended, so he was definitely our standout central defender, just because he was just calm and he was the captain and everything along those lines. It worked quite nicely for us. And Mal beat me 5-1, just took me apart. I basically tried to counteract his tactic, and it just didn't work. I should have just stuck with what I was playing with, which was a 4-3-3, which had Polina at defensive midfielder, actually Pjanic as a regista, and then Rodrigo de Paul centre midfielder on attack, or changed box to box if I was being a bit more defensive. I should have just stuck with that, but I kept on changing it and I kept on tinkering, and that just led to defeats. Obviously the one to Mal. I played Eloise in the quarterfinals, won the first one 4-1, and it was kind of written off by that. We lost the second game 1-0. And we got to the semi-finals and we played MT13, and half-time we were 3-0 down. Absolute head in hands, going nuts. I was playing with 4-3-3, changed it up to the 4-2-4 again, and we pulled it back and we got it to 3-3, and we were just like, yep, that's it, brilliant, works really well. Kuna even had a goal disallowed, so we should have actually won that, and DePaul missed a penalty as well again, so he missed 2 penalties for me. I don't know why I didn't... He was my best penalty taker. If I went to penalties, I was really, really worried because I just didn't have anybody who could score penalties or had the composure along those lines. And then we got to the second leg of the semi-final. I started with the 4-2-4, and that's where my mistake was. I should build into that. It should be something you don't start with. And we had a one highlight semi-final. Sadly, that one highlight was Mitrovic putting the ball in the back of the net for MT, so he got to the final. But yeah, like I said, a one highlight. It's really frustrating. I've noticed this actually on my offline save. Sometimes you can change everything, and it seems to be on. It seems to be more frequent, I've noticed, particularly on key highlights. You can change everything like in the 50th minute and you won't get a single highlight until the end of the game. You can go, right, let's do all this. Like, why has none of this happened? And I use extended quite a lot anyway, but I've started using extended a lot more because you just try and find out those details of why is there no chances being created? Why are we not seeing any type of highlights? And that's precisely what happened in the semi-final. Obviously, I couldn't change that because of the rules of the competition. And it was, I think I should have got to the final, and I'm a bit frustrated I didn't. It's definitely something to build on. It's something to learn really more than anything else. I've never been a tinkerer, and I tinkered just a little bit too much this time around. I should have just trust the process and stuck with it that way. But a semi-final, top 4 out of that competition, not too bad. I mean, congrats to Sai Maggio, who's finally won a ranked draft. I think he was the joint or second longest drafter who's never won a PvE competition. That's now Stinger, and I think Moz is not far behind. So congrats to him on his birthday as well. And he got to stream for, I think it was like 26 hours he did in the end on his birthday stream, because he was still going when I woke up for work the next morning. So there we are. That was my progress. What about you, Kev?
Yeah, the Winter Cup was a really, really weird one for me. So I unlike what Jeb was saying, I had done some prep. I knew who I wanted. I'd got a shortlist sorted. I knew where I was heading with this unlimited budget and world player pool draft, and was feeling very, very good about it. And then half hour before we go live, and then there were a few issues with us going live as well. So it just sort of made everything a little bit disjointed. But half hour before we go live, they say, actually, now the player pool has changed in terms of 10 to 25 million players only. And so all of a sudden, I've had this dilemma of, in the next 10 minutes, they're going to call me to go into the game in various ways and do various things. And I got caught up in that process and didn't feel able to focus enough on creating a shortlist. And up until this point, the Winter Cup and the FMTM competition were kind of my first opportunities to draft on my own. Myself and Jeb had done it in a tag team situation recently. So I hadn't got shortlists for lots of different scenarios, which I will now change and make sure that that's not the case for future ones that I'm in. So all of a sudden, all of my prep went out the window. And if you know me at all in terms of drafting, That's what I do. I prep. I've got time. I don't have a full-time job. If I'm going to do something like drafting, I will spend time figuring out what I want to do, and then I follow my process. And it went completely out the window. And that led to two things. One, a slightly stressed Kev. And two, apologies for it for anybody that was there. Genuinely, one of my poorest streams ever as well. It was not me wishing to diminish myself in any way. It genuinely was. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't feel focused on it, because all the way through the drafting point, I was going, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea who's coming up next. I have no idea how that's going to fit into my system. But we're going to have to do this, and we're going to have to do it in front of people. So, we did. And we drafted a squad, and it was a fine squad. It got to the end of the process, and I thought, yep, that's all right. I think I can do roughly what I want to do with it. The problem is, guys, here's the rub. What I wanted to do with it didn't really work. And nothing really went my way, particularly. But this is the thing for me recently. So I did back to back. On the Friday evening, I participated in the Football Manager Top Manager competition, and on the Sunday, I think it was, I did the Winter Cup. So a couple of days between the two, and they both finished in exactly the same scenario for me. The very final group stage game that I had, I needed the other result in my group to go a particular way, and they both times it did. So that went my way. And so all I had to do was win my last group game. First one was against GYRFM, Gareth, in the FMTM. And the second one was against Tim Lewis in the Winter Cup. If I won both of those two games in those two groups, I would have gone through to the knockout stages. The other results went my way. And in both of those games, my team just went, nah. And I don't really know why. It was incredibly frustrating. All the way through FMTM, I neither won or lost a game by more than one goal. So it was always on a knife edge, always very close. And I couldn't quite figure out how to make that better than it was. We were scoring lots but conceding lots. So in the second time round with the Winter Cup, I tweaked the formation a little bit, tweaked the structure of the play a bit, made myself more defensively solid, and didn't score the goals to get through. And somehow, somewhere in the middle of those two things is the Kev tactic, and I haven't found it yet. As we speak, we are 24 hours away from doing the Football Manager Therapy versus the community draft. And I'm hoping I might find it during that. Who knows? But on these two occasions, I got to the last group stage game. I didn't win my own games. I lost to GYR, and I think I drew against Tim Lewis. And I went out both times feeling slightly frustrated by that. And I'm still none the wiser as to whether I can get my big man, little man striking combination working in an FM23 draft. But I really hope so, because it's what I want to achieve. And that was it, really. That was my story for FMTM and the Winter Cup. I won the Winter Cup a year ago, beating Cy Maggio in the final. Again, congrats to him. He finally got his competition, which is brilliant. This time round, just nothing quite worked. Very frustrating.
It is frustrating, isn't it? It's one of those really weird things, because if you've not done PvP before, it's such a different... It's almost like playing a different game compared to offline FM, and it's tricky. It's really, really tricky, especially when something's not working. Because unless you have the time to participate in a lot of the kind of community draft competitions that are going on, because there are plenty of them, but sometimes time constraints can be your enemy. If you don't have the time, you find yourself in these ranked competitions, and it's like trying to work it out on the fly under those circumstances, which makes it significantly harder. Similarly to yourself, Kev, at the time of recording, I was doing I took part in my group for FMTM last night. I played against Limo, Wald McConville, and Bell Nation, and it was their first ever ranked PvP competition. similarly to yourself, Kev, I think the draft pool for last night for myself, it was a £300 million budget, and it was the top 5 European leagues loaded up. So England, Spain, Italy, Germany, and France. My tactic when it comes to drafting, and I've talked about this on panels with things like the playoffs, has always been go big first pick, get that marquee player in, and then build around them. Because there are enough bargains in those pools that you can, you can go expensive, you can go cheap. I was in a position where I had the double pick on the draft as well, so I like that. I don't in a smaller pool like that, in a 4-person draft, it's actually quite beneficial because you can stack up, those players, get them both in early doors. My plan was somebody like a Haaland. I was going to spend nearly a third of my budget on one player at the beginning, and then go and pick up some bargains and build around them in that way. And of course, Burl Nation picked Haaland with his first pick. Makes complete sense. So Haaland off the table. I am cursed when it comes to strikers in PvP because I have used arguably 3 of the better or the more expensive striking options so far in ranked competitions this year. I've used Erling Haaland, couldn't get a song out of him. I've used Vlahovic from Juventus, nothing, absolutely nothing. Had him in path to the playoffs, and he scored 2 goals for me across all the fixtures, and they were both penalties. So nothing from open play. Last night, I thought, right, I need a decent striker. I'm not going to go quite as expensive as I would have done with somebody like a Haaland. And I thought back to the last pass of the playoffs, and I thought, I remember Wictiv Abbey was gifted Duvan Zapata. And they found Zapata to be pretty effective. So I thought, you know what? Why not? Let's give him a go. Looked at the attributes. The attributes are strong. I was like, he will do a job in my system. Awful. 1 goal in 6 games. Couldn't get anything out of him. Just diabolically bad. But the rest of the draft, it's weird doing a 4-man one because you have suddenly that, even though it's a smaller pool of players, you still know that you're going to get a lot of the players that you want because there's just the variety is there. Drafting against somebody like Limo is tricky because Limo, master of the 4-4-2, knows exactly, he's got that system mapped out perfectly in his head. He knows exactly which players he wants for which positions. He went in early. He picked up players like Jude Bellingham, like James Ward-Prowse. Both of them I would have loved in my midfield. The system that I was using was one I came up with on stream last Monday with my Stuttgart save. And it was good. It's a good system. I've used a fairly similar version in PvP in previous years. Managed to get it working in FM23 offline, which I did on Monday night, just by tweaking a couple of the roles. In previous years, it's kind of like a asymmetric 4-3-3. One of the main threats previously was one of those central midfielders on attack, because those attacking runs on games like the CM on attack on FM22 was the midfield role.
It was amazing.
Lethal, absolutely lethal. Haven't quite got it working. I'm struggling to get the same results with it this year than I was last year. So just a little bit of tweaks to where the kind of the deeper attacking threat is coming from. Tweaked those around a little bit. I had a midfield of Paul Pogba and Denis Zakaria. Paul Pogba was recommended to me very passionately by a former host of this podcast. Thanks, Tony. He was average at best. And Zakaria just seemed to be, he was Bilbo Baggins from The Hobbit. It's just that little scene of him just running out of his house. I'm going on an adventure. His role was sitting back as an anchor or at best halfback. So he wasn't supposed to do any running, and he went, no, I'm going to. So which kind of wasn't what he was supposed to do at all, if ever. And I think a lot of the goals I conceded across the games were generally because he or Paul Pogba just decided to go off on runs they shouldn't have been going on. Up front, as I say, Zapata wasn't doing the business. I had Terrier in kind of the shadow striker role behind them. He was very, very good. Hakimi was my right mid-sided midfielder because of stick piano in that last path of the playoffs. He showed us the damage Hakimi can do further up the pitch, and Hakimi was pretty good.
There might have been somebody else that achieved that as well, possibly. But
Oh, is there?
He's got a very bad cough all of a sudden.
Is he okay? Is it you, Kev? Because you're the one with the sore throat.
Well, I mean, I did have Hakimi recently in one of my drafts, and he was pretty good. He assisted quite a lot. Didn't get any goals. Did he get any goals for you, Jeb?
Did he do it for you?
Yeah, he got 6 goals and 4 assists. So it was all right. Yeah,
didn't quite manage that for me, but okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Or me. A couple of assists though. A couple of assists, which was something. And for me, I guess the whole competition, it was just a tale of what could have been. I think that's where I kind of finished with it. The first game against Limo, I came back from 2-0 down to draw 2-2, which I was very, very happy with. Because on paper, just because I've never drafted against Wold before. Obviously, Bell Nation first rank competition, so I'd never come up against him. I've never beaten Limo in a draft. I've played him a few times now, and he always just seems to be able to just pick me apart with his 4-4-2. After he went 2 up, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be bad." Tweaked a few things. The formation that I've got like basically I've reversed all the roles so I can switch the play to the other side a little bit more effectively. Did that, a few tactical changes, a few decent substitutions, and came good. Ended up finishing 2-2, which I was very, very happy with. Picked up a 1-0 win against Walmer-Conville in game 2. Very, very similar to your semi-final, Jeb. I think probably about 2-3 highlights across the course of the entire game. And it's a really, really, really hard thing to do because you're looking at the in-game stats and you're looking at shots, you're looking at shots on target. And without those highlights, it's kind of hard to figure out what's going right or wrong. So it basically came down to 85th minute, a deflected cross fell to Jared Bowen, who scored, and so picked up a win there. I lost to Burl Nation in game 3 in a frustrating game, a game that I felt like I probably could have won. Zapata was particularly awful in that third fixture. So kind of going into, we're like halfway through the fixtures, I'm like, played 3, won 1, drawn 1, lost 1. There's room to build on it. Played Limo again, game 4, and in an attempt to maybe nullify him, because worth pointing out here, in game weeks 2 and 3, Limo, I think, scored 5 goals in each fixture. So suddenly Limo's goal difference was staggeringly high. He sat on 7 points, 3 behind him, but his goal difference is far superior. He's the informed team, and I'm thinking, right, I'll go a little bit more defensive against him. Maybe try and hit him on the counter, and went into halftime 0-0. I would argue I went into halftime winning 0-0 because I hadn't conceded lots and lots of goals. Feeling a little bit good about myself. I'm like, right, second half, we'll go a little bit more attacking. We'll see if we can take the game to him because we managed to put 2 past him in the reverse leg, and I think we can do it again. No, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Couldn't create anything. Lost. Conceded 2 goals. Frustrating goals to concede as well because it was both of them were defensive mistakes. Neither of them were me being outplayed. It was just 2 horrible errors from midfielders and defenders. Just let him walk through after retaining possession far too high up the pitch. A bit frustrating. Kind of found myself in a position where I was like, well, I can't win. Definitely not going to top the group. But the way FMTM works, the winners of each group stage go through, and also the best placed runner-up from those group stages will get a crack at the finals as well. I'm thinking that is still potentially doable. I needed to win against Wold in game 5, which I did. And Kev and I were discussing this off camera before we started recording. Some people that you play in PvP, people like GYR, for example, people like Stick Piano, very, very tactically astute people. The way they set up their teams, they set up to dominate early doors. They will probably score 2 or 3. They will go ahead and then they will just manage the game out from there. My formation is fairly attacking. It should create a lot of chances, but across all of the games, I was never on the front foot in any of the games. It felt almost like I was chasing them across the board. Against Wold, who was setting up with a similar kind of system he'd used in the previous fixture, which was the pretty drab, 0-0 until the 85th minute. Very, very few highlights. He started with a very, very similar 11. I rotated a little bit just to avoid yellow cards, and players like Zapata and Paul Pogba was starting to do my head in. I had Matthias Nunes sat on the bench, and I was like, let's give him some minutes. He's probably going to be quite good. And he was. My goodness, he was. I had Samuel Chukwueze as well, who hadn't played a single minute. And I was like, oh, let's bring him in. Let's see what happens. Because of the asymmetric nature of the formation. One of the wide players is up top in kind of like a left wing position. They're like an inside forward. The other one on the opposite side is playing deeper. It's just like a standard right midfielder, or in some cases left midfielder. And I was just cursed because whoever was playing in the more advanced position every single game was terrible. I was either starting Danjuma, who just found his way to me he just stopped off in the Midlands on his way down to London to sign for Spurs. Just popped in to say hello to me. He was terrible. If I rotated him with Jared Bowen was terrible. And then there was just Chukwueze just sat on the bench like, oh, come on, boss, give me a game. We'll see how it goes. Started him, and he scored 2 goals in the opening 20 minutes. He was absolutely fantastic. All my rotated players put in a great performance. Gvardiol with a 25-yard screamer. What he was doing up that far at the pitch from left back, I don't know. On the right-hand side of the pitch, just curled one top corner. Stunning. Went in 4-0 up at half-time, and I couldn't figure out what I'd done that game that I was doing differently from the others. It seemed like it was just such a contradiction in how well we were playing in that game compared to how we'd been playing against the same opponent using the same system with a pretty identical starting 11 3 games previously. So I don't know what happened. It was great. Ended up winning that game 4-2. Conceded a couple of sloppy goals late on. Last game, it's Burl Nation. Limo and Burl Nation both sat on 10 points at this point in the group. I'm sat on 7. So if I beat Burl Nation, I'm pretty much guaranteed to finish second. He scored from a corner 4 minutes in. Well, this is not a great start. And then I scored from 1 2 minutes later. So brilliant. This is a really, really well-balanced game. It's all to play for. We're both going for it. Really tight, really, really well-balanced. And then Alex Tellez, who he managed to pick up ahead of me, was very, very excited about the potential of getting to draft. Just hoofs it down the left-hand side onto Jonathan David, who just cuts inside completely unmarked and makes it 2-1. I couldn't find a way back into the game. I finished third in the group. Burl Nation has finished second, and he's pretty much guaranteed to go through with 13 points, I think, as best placed runner-up in any of the group stages. Frustrating, to say the least. I felt like I could have probably done a little bit more. But at the same time, swings and roundabouts, didn't get turned over by anybody, didn't embarrass myself. So it's a learning curve, isn't it? But I've got the PvP bug. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited to do more of it. I'm also going to be taking part in another competition, and I'm going to be taking part in the can't remember. Oh no, FM Super League. Sorry, Murph. Love you.
We do. We love Murph.
Yeah.
In this house, we love and respect Murph. I've got my qualifier coming up on Monday against Muck Tyler. So again, if you're listening to this on Patreon, come hang out with me on stream on Monday night. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, just check my Twitter for how sad I am. We'll know how well I did on that. But I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm really, really enjoying my PvP at the moment. I've not done a huge amount of it recently. Being involved in this, getting the opportunity to be involved with the Super League, having to path the playoffs last month. It's good. It's good fun. But like regular FM, I feel like I'm not treading water, but I'm receiving probably a C+ rating from the board. Doing okay. Definite room for improvement, and improve I shall. You mark my words. It's probably going to happen. It might happen. We'll see.
It's how I feel definitely about my own performance as well, is that I'm not there yet. I haven't quite figured out the tactic that's going to set me for a little while and make me something that I can work out of for a little while, etc. So I've got a couple of other drafting opportunities coming up. Nothing I can tell you about just yet because they haven't been officially announced, but they are coming up in the next couple of months. So that's going to be good. But yeah, similar stuff. It's the one thing for me, it's the dual nature of drafting. It's been brilliant to do. Loved it. Had a great time chatting to the people I was playing against, getting to know new people, all that kind of stuff. And then the infuriating aspect of I don't feel like I've quite got my system sorted. And I don't quite think I've got match management sorted yet either. There were a couple of times, specifically in the FMTM, where I probably had a lead and probably should have done something slightly different than I did to actually hold on to the lead and get out of the game in the way that I wanted to. So, but as you say, it's a bit like everything across FM23 for me. I was saying to Rich just before we came live, I am absolutely riddled with anxiety over the thought that the only reason I've been any form of successful in FM23 so far is that I managed to get a job in one of the 2 best clubs in Ukraine and nobody else could compete with me. And we're going to find out whether that's the case when we move to Romania and maybe not get one of the best 2 jobs in the country. We'll see. But then PvP is the same. I don't know whether I feel I've got a total handle on it, but it's such fine margins. As I said earlier, I didn't lose or win by more than 1 goal in the FMTM and still didn't go through. It's fine margins, but they can be really infuriating.
Yeah, definitely. I think I don't know. Obviously, I've had success in PvP at the Road to Legends. Obviously, I've got to defend that title next month, I think it is. And then, like I said, at the FM Cups, I was on about tinkering, but I came from 2-1 down, and I also came from 2-0 down to win games as well, and also came from 3-0 down. So I'm saying about tinkering. Tinkering does work in some ways, but it's having that, it's doing it at the right time. Like you said, match management is quite key on that, and I think the issues that I had in the last one was more I had too many options in certain positions, and you don't know which option's the best option. And then as soon as you see, I've now got 2 options sat in the bench, you can go play in that position, or that guy had a terrible game last time, instead of going, okay, you can go out again. It's like, nope, I'll bring you one of the other options or something along those lines. I think that's important to manage on that. I might be in a bit of trouble at Pescara because I've said I'll finish top 4 because I've got a new board. We had a takeover, so I'll probably have an update for you next time we're on, but it's obviously keep an eye out on the streams on that. But yeah, we made like I said, a very brief update on where we are. We made a few interesting signings. Mamadou Sakho is our centre back of choice to replace the one that we sold. Mm-hmm. We picked up Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on a free at 35 years old. He can't run, but he's still putting in a job. And then up front, my 2 options of strikers are Totti's son, who's 18, and he's been dubbed as the next Christian Vieri, but that's disappeared, which is a shame. Like I said, if that carries on, I'll be well happy with that. And Pierre Van Hooydonk's son, who's been brilliant. He might be the new Vagani for me because he's got 24 goals already this season. He can score a free kick. He can play as a target forward. So see how he gets on. But he wants a new contract. He wants lots of money, and I don't have that, so I might lose him quite quickly. But yeah, like I said, I've said to the new board I'll finish top 4, and I'm struggling a little. So we'll see where we get to.
It's the new transfer policy at Pescara, isn't it? You have to be a second-generation talent to get in through the doors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a fair few in Serie B. It's quite funny just to see like the names like Casaraghi or Ravanelli and various other things just pop up against me. Maybe that's a save that somebody can do, second generation only. Like
someone's going to do that, surely. Let us know if you do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
please.
I've got a week this week where I'm away with work all week, and I'm on an exciting broadcast, but it goes on for 12 hours, so I'll probably have FM on in the background, so I might play around with that second generation idea. It could be an interesting save.
Oh, that's definitely got legs, hasn't it? It's definitely got legs. I mean, there's a certain Premier League striker who's kind of doing quite well at the moment as a second generation forward, but I think just bringing him in might be cheating. Hard to say. Hard to say.
I don't think that much of Liam Delap, but there we are.
No.
Nice.
Whammy. Well struck, sir. Well struck. Lovely. We also, just before we kind of start to wrap things up, we just also PvP success might not have come your way recently, Kev. You've won. You've bloody won another poll, haven't you? You bloody won another poll. Last week's episode, Ledley Kings League, we put together our 6-a-side teams. Apparently there are 7 players involved, but I think that's greedy. I think the quality of the squads we drafted, you could do it with 6. And we put it to you, the audience, to vote on. Kev went out with the aim to win and did. Congratulations. You picked, again, when I was typing the names out, I was like, actually, Kev's team is really good, isn't it? You know, they were all good, but I was like typing Kev's out and I was like, oh, it's really good. It's really, really good. So congratulations. Hey, maybe through a variety of contractual obligations and luck, we might see that team playing in real life. Probably not.
Who knows? That would be fantastic.
Probably not.
Whoever didn't vote for mine, one of those 6 players is appearing at your doorstep next week.
I'd be scared if I were
exactly. And the other 5 are sneaking in around the back where they distract you on the front step. So exactly, you're getting Schiller. He's just going to kick a free kick. He's going to kick a ball at you really hard. Also, again, shout out to former podcast host Tony Jameson. He submitted his team. Excellent choice of his goalkeeper, Mr. Tumble. So wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I think, you know, I'd like to see my team play against his, just for the battle of arguably the 2 greatest goalkeepers the world has ever seen. DeVito versus Tumble. Who wins? The audience. That's who. The sport of football is the real winner there. The sport of football. That, gentlemen, don't know about you, but I think that's probably a podcast.
Agreed.
Yeah,
lovely.
Definitely.
Wonderful. A good time has been had by all, I'm sure. Before we go, before we wave goodbye to the camera, Jeb, if people want to watch that content that you are making, where can they do so?
Twitch.tv/Jebbaroo and the Jebbaroo on Twitter. I'm a week off this week off the streams, unfortunately, because I am away, but I should be back up and running before the next podcast.
Wonderful. Kev, if people would like to watch you going on a big old Romanian job hunt, where can they do that?
You can find me at the United City FM, both on Twitter and Twitch. Twitch, I'm on there every weekday afternoon, 3 till 5 p.m. And absolutely, we head to Romania to see what happens next. Come and join us.
Lovely. I will be there because I am excited to see the next step of the journey. Of course, you can find me, the man talking. You can find me at twitch.tv/Rich Owens FM. And you can also find me at Rich Owens FM on Twitter for opinions and awful jokes. That brings us to the end of another wonderful episode of Football Manager Therapy. It's been lovely. I've had a great time. Hopefully you've had a great time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you soon. Love you lots. Take care. Bye.